I'm not consistent with my health, or I'm not consistent with not drinking. It's like, you're consistent, you're just consistently making the wrong choice. You're just consistently drinking. You're just consistently not working out.
Right.
What we're talking about here is we want to shift the habit or behavior.
I feel that people have to do their best to stay together. They shouldn't stay in an unhappy marriage. I don't agree with that. But they should really exhaust all options.
I agree with that too. Really, I think it is at the heart of maximizing middle age is what we do with our time. There is a system, and that system is built on measurable and quantifiable actions. And if you are not doing that in every one of those categories, family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun, you are not going to get anywhere.
Welcome back to Rise Podcast, Life Stories of Accomplished Individuals. Today we have Greg Scheiman with us. Greg is a multi-exit successful entrepreneur, investor, high-performance coach, and author of The Middle-Aged Male, a no-bullshit guide to living better, longer, happier, healthier, and wealthier, and having more fun in your 40s and 50s. As an athlete and fitness enthusiast, he emphasizes the importance of physical well-being. Greg engages with his community as the founder and face of Midlife Male, a premier digital media platform for middle-aged men. Taking a quote from Greg's website, he is an expert on helping you change your life for the better because he did the same for himself, transforming from fat to thin, drunk to sober, broke to wealthy, rudderless to purposeful, empty to fulfilled, and unhappy to happy. Greg has been featured in the New York Times, ESPN, Adweek, Wall Street Journal, Variety, and Muscle and Fitness. Greg, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And happy birthday to you. Can we say that?
Thank you. Yes, you can say that. It's the birthday edition with the balloons that my family got for me.
What a present. I get to be on the birthday edition.
Thank
you for that. Happy birthday.
You're very well. Well, thank you. And yeah, when we booked this, and you told me these are the dates you're available, I said, yeah, it's on my birthday. Cool. Cool. And I thought it was so fitting because considering the subject matter and, the topics that you cover, it was perfect. I feel like it's almost going to be a therapy session because I just discovered when I was showing you my sauna and my cold plunge, which is my pride and joy. It's the first thing I do, right? I discovered that you and I are exactly the same age.
Correct.
You
yes.
were 51.
Just a couple of 51-year-old bald guys with beards sitting down having a conversation on your birthday.
It's a lot of handsomeness in one YouTube video, I got to say. Greg, take me back to the beginning. I'm going to jump around. I'm actually going to jump into a lot of things because obviously the subject matter that you cover is very applicable to me. I have a lot of questions. But I want to talk about you because the premise of this podcast is to go back, kind of understand your story, go through your history, understand kind of what some of the hardships were. I read about some of the hardships from your, from the research that I did on you. But take me back. Where are you from?
Grew up in Great Neck, Long Island.
Okay.
51, as you said, December 23rd, 1972. Mm-hmm. Born and raised there. My father grew up in Great Neck. Mother grew up in Queens. I have two younger brothers.
Okay. And you exited two companies. So did you come from an entrepreneurial family?
My father was an entrepreneur. He was in the cable television business early. Mm-hmm. He was in the car business. And then unfortunately, he passed away at 47.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. So I read about your father passing, and I was gonna touch on that. How did if we can talk about it, how did your dad pass away?
Sure. Open book here. So let's go.
Because it's scary, right? When you tell me that a 47-year-old man died and I'm sitting here at 51, whenever I hear these stories, it obviously scares me. So yeah, mm-hmm. How did that?
Me too. One, it was life-changing for my entire family, myself mm-hmm. at 17. It was January 16th, 1992. Still remember it like it was yesterday, but he had cancer. He was sick for a long time. He was a big smoker. Mm. And a lot of what I talk about now in terms of maximizing middle age, what success looks like, what wealth and purpose and health and sustainability and longevity and happiness and all these things really, really look like. That is largely because, look, my father did pass away at 47, and that was a tipping point and a turning point. So, yeah, that's
it's still like you're kind of choked up by it. Like it's still something that it sits with you.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we're here for a wedding this weekend, and in Miami. And unfortunately, the groom and I have this in common, that his father passed away when he was a teenager. And he was asking me some questions about what it's going to be like in the wedding. Not having your best friend, not having your father there, not having somebody to talk to. So it's still raw. It's still very real. It's still very emotional. And I have looked at it now. When I got to 47, like you said, it's scary. I got to 47 and go, wait a minute. Okay. I can either squander these opportunities or I can make the most of them. Like now I'm in bonus time. I've made it longer than my father has been alive. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Wow. We have another thing in common. So my father died of cancer as well. But he was in his 70s. I want to say he was 77. So it was only 5 years ago that he passed away. No, thank you. Thank you. So tell me the genesis of your entrepreneurial journey. So now you're without your dad. You're 17. What was that situation like? It was your mom, and you mentioned you had how many siblings?
It was my mom and two younger brothers.
And
I was away at college.
You're the eldest brother.
Yes, I'm the oldest brother, and I was not ready to be a father figure.
Head of the household.
Not ready to be a head of the household at all. I was away at college, so it was my freshman year. I was at the University of Michigan, and I was, we talked about rudderless. Yeah. All I cared about at that time was having a good time. Was trying to forget and not dealing with my trauma. And there was nobody there to help me with it either. I was a freshman, so I didn't have great friends. Even my best friends were away enjoying their freshman year of college.
Well, without that that weight on them, right? Of just losing their dad.
Correct. So I didn't want to burden them per se. I didn't know how to deal with it. I was away on my own, and I was having as much fun as I possibly could to run away from the situation.
How did you eventually, I don't want to say get over, because you I guess you never get over something like that, but.
It's taken a long time. And I say this a lot now that I'm a slow learner and a late bloomer.
Okay.
And I've done a number of different things in my 20s and my 30s, and into my 40s. And here I am now in my 50s. And it's taken a very long time, because I think when you lose your father, at least in my case, and your best friend and your mentor.
You guys were that close?
We were very close. Absolutely. Very, very close. And from that point on, I kind of thought I had to do it alone. I kind of thought like.
But didn't you?
And to an extent, I did. I didn't do it well, because I don't think you do anything necessarily well alone. What I've learned over time is that we need good mentors. We need good friends. We need people around us. We don't have to push the boulder uphill all by ourselves. All of these things that I was doing to try to outrun it or mask it or out earn it or out whatever it might be, to kind of live his legacy, live my life that way, make him proud. All of these things were all kind of disjointed and discombobulated, in my head.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing things.
You said something that you don't have to do it alone, but I can tell you that at my age, I still feel that I have to do it alone. So it's hard for me to imagine that, a young man, at 17 and then, when you were in your 20s and 30s, how did you get over that feeling that you don't have to do it alone?
Well, it's not gone.
Right.
Like you, I still wrestle with it all the time. And I think those of us that also gravitate towards entrepreneurship, that maybe don't take advice or orders well, or want to be doing things on our own, or quite frankly, for a while, think we have the answers to the test, or think we have things figured out, or guess what? We're gonna figure it out on our own, the way we do things. I'm not over that yet at all. I'm still working on that and still getting better with that, and hopefully better with age. What I did that has made the biggest difference, or what I've done and continue to do that has made the biggest difference, is get clear on what's most important to me. A lot of what's in the book is about the conversations I've had with over 200 high-performing men.
Yeah.
That offered their experience and their advice and what's worked for them.
So what's the common denominator?
We came up with 5 rules and 6 Fs.
Okay.
Okay.
This is part of your curriculum
and this is part of what I do now. I started, one was getting very clear on knowing what's important is most important. there were a lot of years that I spent chasing salary and title and doing what we were supposed to do. You go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you have children, you make money.
Your career, it sounds like you were kind of peppering in being an entrepreneur and being an executive. So were you kind of going back and forth between those roles?
Yeah, I became an executive because I didn't have another good entrepreneurial idea.
Gotcha.
I had gotten out of a business, and
So you sold? Is that one of the ones you
yes.
sold?
So I had gotten out of a company called Team Baby Entertainment, which was a sports video business that I had founded when we had our first son. And ultimately we built it up, and Michael Eisner became an investor in the business and ultimately sold the business. And there was
Michael Eisner's from Disney, right?
Yes, he was the former chairman of Disney, and we were the first acquisition that he made post Disney. And there was a lot of perception that went into that. That was, oh, this is a big success, and I have this partnership. And we went up, we did, and grew the company from selling DVDs out of the back of my car, to being a pretty significant business. But we went down just as quickly as we went up when the DVD business was changing and pediatricians were saying, don't put your children in front of the TV for 30 minutes or hours at a time. And when that company went away, while it was a great run with a great partner.
This is the company you sold, but then you stayed on to run it.
Well, no, after we sold it, I was done. So I was left back in Houston, Texas, where we were living, where Kate is from, with at that point no job anymore. And now we had 2 children. So I backed into becoming an executive.
Yeah.
I backed into, after 20 years of entrepreneurship, going into the risk management business. So I went from being a risk taker to being a risk manager, which was the most stable thing, the most professional thing I had ever done in my life. And it was a complete, let's back into that, because now all of a sudden, and this is a midlife male kind of story, that now all of a sudden I have 2 children. We have private school tuitions. We're still young. We have some money, but not enough money to do nothing.
Sure.
I don't have another brilliant, if you will, or multi-million-dollar idea. The economy is different. So what am I going to do? What checks the boxes? What's responsible? And I got a very good opportunity to join a very good firm in Houston. We didn't want to move again. I was from New York. I didn't want to go back to New York or join the next business that they were working on. And we stayed put. And while it was the most professionally responsible and lucrative. The firm ended up growing from 45 to 200 people.
What was the nature of the business?
It was insurance and risk management. And I enjoyed building a book of business, and I could sell and I could talk to people. But it was like there wasn't really personal passion combined with the professional expertise. So it was an empty period of my life, which I think a lot of guys fall into.
How long did that go on for?
14 years.
So let's dive into that. So I think that's a common scenario for a lot of men, regardless of their age. They kind of fall into these careers or even businesses. What do you from your teachings and just from your experience, what do you suggest that men do when they fall into things that, again, whether it's a career or a business, it doesn't really matter, but they're doing things, the clock is ticking. They start understanding that, hey, let's say they're in their 30s and even 40s and they're understanding, this is finite and I better figure this out because I got to put kids through school, retire, all of these things that they have to do. So what do you say to men who are in this kind of place where they know this can't be? So I have a multifaceted, my question is multifaceted.
Sure.
So they're in a place that they know won't necessarily get them to the finish line. The clock is ticking. What happens at that point? What do they do?
It's a great question. I get asked this question all the time because I think that's where so many men are, is that they are stuck. They look in the mirror one day and they're 10 and 15, 20 years into this.
Yeah.
And they're 40 something years old and they don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they feel. They don't love this career that they're in. They have these obligations and responsibilities of life that they cannot just shirk or walk away from. This quit your job and follow your passion bullshit is, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
This is not, it doesn't work like that. So where you start is you start to make a plan. You may not be the CEO of your firm, but but you are the CEO of your own life. And you've got to make a plan. And you've got to figure out how are you going to reverse engineer into the life that it is that you actually want. What can you control?
When is it too late?
I don't think it's ever too late.
Really?
You know, what I say is today's the day you start. So wherever you are in your life right now is the day that you start, if you want to make those changes. And the actions you take and the choices you make are what determine what kind of life you're actually going to have. So whether you're 40, whether you're 50, whether you're 60, and there are guys in their 30s, I know some very old 30-somethings, and I know some very young 60-somethings. So I think we're just scratching the surface on where we can go with this. But the key is, for me, it wasn't about quitting my job to follow my passion.
Yeah.
That was not possible. That was not possible as overhead continues to grow.
Yes.
Okay? There was no exit yet. I had equity in this particular firm. I had a book of business, residual income. It was changing my mindset to start seeing this as an opportunity and possibility.
Sorry, but was it lucrative at least financially?
Yes, absolutely.
But it didn't tick the box of like it didn't, like your heart wasn't into it.
Heart wasn't totally into it. So that's part of the mindset change, was to let's get my heart into this. Let's get my head into this. Let's try to combine personal passion with professional expertise. Instead, let's transcend the commodity of what I'm doing here. So first, let's get your life in order as the CEO of your own life.
Okay.
And this involved really focusing on my family, refocusing and prioritizing my family, my fitness,
Yeah.
okay, which is getting back in shape, and my health,
Yeah.
my finances, which let's control the burn rate. Okay, let's figure out what runway we need, where this is going. My food, my nutrition, what I'm putting in my body, and also the kind of fun that I was having.
Okay, so those are the 5 things?
Those are the six Fs.
The 6
right
Fs.
there. Those
Okay,
are the six
great.
Fs.
I want to dive into these because these all sound super relevant. So the first one is family.
Yes.
Now, when you just listed them, this is really crucial. When you just listed them, did you list them in chronological? Not chronological, in order of importance?
They're always in order. Yes, they're absolutely
in order of importance.
They're in order of importance. To
So
me,
family is first.
family is always first.
Okay.
My fitness, which is health, is second.
Yeah.
Because what are we doing any of this for if we don't have our health?
Yeah.
Finances is huge. And guys don't talk about this enough. But look, my definition of wealth became, look, I want to have enough money to do what we want, when we want, with who we want, for as long as we want.
Yeah.
That was it. So that looks different for everybody.
I want to take notes because those 5 things are ultimately the most, I get it. And it's such a good roadmap, but let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about family because, I can tell you from my own experience, I have a lot on my plate as most men do. Multiple businesses. We just moved to Miami. The list goes on and on. As we were talking, we have 3 little boys who are, in their kind of formative years and dealing with kind of the challenges involved with that. But I can say, and I have this guilt that follows me all the time, whereas I'm sitting at my desk all day, feverishly trying to get the things done that I need to get done, making things happen on the financial side and career side, with all the businesses and stuff. And I sit and I feel this guilt that, I should play ball. Like I should grab the baseball gloves and go out to the field and toss the ball around with my boys. But I got a business dinner tonight, or I have another event tonight. So when you say family is first, it's funny because, not funny, but the reality is that I think a lot of men will actually, in their minds, it's a priority, but in reality, they deprioritize it because the things they need to get done for work are time sensitive. So how do you put family first? So I agree with you, family is first, the connection to your children, the connection to your spouse.
I think a lot of this stuff is easy to say. This is simple.
But it's hard to do.
It's hard to do. I say
so how do you
simple
do
is
it?
hard, okay, which is why most men don't do it.
Right.
But I think as we sit here and I say, we're not like most.
Right.
And what I'm trying to talk to other guys about is don't be like most. You've got to walk the walk there too. And to that effect, family is first. Okay, well, show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities. Are you choosing your business dinner or are you choosing throwing the ball with your kids? And it's not a simple 1 or 2. I do a lot of 1 or 2 comparisons. Better 1 or better 2. It's not as simple always as 1 or 2. But the question, Gary, also is, how many times are you choosing dinner over your kids? How many times are you saying no to throwing the ball? Versus what I'm talking about here is the cumulative effect. This whole thing about balance, balance is another thing that's bullshit. Okay? At certain times of your life, certain things are going to take priority over that. But what is your personal operating system? What is your thesis? You talked to me about how I was doing it and how I was making these changes. It's what do you stand for? What are your standards? So if family is first, my calendar is built around my family. And then I reverse engineer back into anything I'm going to do professionally or so on and so forth. Now, how much money I need to earn is baked into that. How many of my son's games do I attend? Okay, it says in my operating system, 80% of my son's games I will attend. It gives me 20% leeway for that business meeting or for that trip or there are other things that are there because perfect is also the enemy of good.
Elaborate on that.
Meaning, I'm not going to bat 1,000. I'm not going to be the perfect husband. I'm not going to be the perfect father. I am not going to be the perfect businessman. So where's the margin? What is my acceptable standard? Well, if I'm at 80% of my boys' activities, that's a good standard for me.
Yeah.
That 20%, what's baked into that? The fact that we need to earn a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
And that's important. That we need to spend time, Kate and I, together, just the two of us.
Absolutely.
That I need to exercise and be in my cold plunge and be in my sauna because I want to be around a lot longer than my dad was. Taking care of yourself, all of those things are built in. Everything's combined in there. So, that's kind of the way you develop it, from your 6 F's into your 5 rules, into the actual how. Most guys are talking why.
But I want to get back to the how. I think I think we can all agree on the why.
That's exactly right.
So I'm with you 100%. What I struggle with and what I believe most men will struggle with is the how. And I mean, you've made it kind of, you've oversimplified it, I believe, respectfully. Like you've oversimplified it saying, well, you just got to, in your calendar, prioritize your kids. But the reality is that as a man, you get a call and you have to take a meeting and it's an important meeting. Like the thing is that everything is an important meeting, unfortunately, or fortunately in business. So everything is an important meeting. So how do you do it? Like, how do you, knowing that if you attend this meeting, then you're positioning yourself for a positive outcome on the business side, which from a practical perspective you need in order to fuel your life. So then how do you reconcile that?
Do you need it? Do you want it? What do I want to do? What do I get to do? What do I have to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's why rule number 1, knowing what's important is what's most important. Not every good business opportunity is the one you should be taking or at that particular time. It may be a good business opportunity, maybe not right now.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the how, one of the biggest issues on the how is, hey, how do I make better choices? How do I make the right choice for me at the right time? How do I know what to say yes to or say no to?
I think that's the key.
Yes, and that's where it is. Okay, what are my priorities? How much do I need to earn? Where am I trying to go with my business? Where are we right now at this age and stage of life? What does that look like a few years down the road? If I have young kids, am I preparing? Do I need to earn a lot now and save for college and do this again? If I'm out of shape, what is it going to take to get back in shape? If I'm in very good shape, what does it take to maintain the condition that I'm in? All of these they're scales, but it's back down to the how part where we're talking about is, hey, how much time is it going to take me to be 175 pounds, 10 to 12% body fat? Look pretty good without my clothes on and call it a day at 51. Okay, well, here's exactly how much time that takes for me to be in the gym. That looks like exercising 5 days a week, 2 days off, sauna and cold plunge 3 to 4 days a week, mixed modalities of boxing, of swimming, of functional fitness. Okay, where is that? Plug it in. Need to make $1 million a year? Okay, I see 10 clients at a time. Each client pays $5,000 a month, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 clients a day. There is a system. And that system is built on measurable and quantifiable actions. And if you are not doing that in every one of those categories, family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun, you are not going to get anywhere.
It sounds overwhelming.
It's actually the simplest thing. What's really hard is not having a plan. I'm like a golden retriever. You throw the ball, I'll go get the ball.
Yeah.
Without a plan, forget it. That's where the rudderless was. I had it backwards. I thought all the freedom was not having a plan, going out and blazing the entrepreneurial path, doing things whenever you want to, saying yes to everything that sounded like a good opportunity. And I could not have been more wrong. It's the discipline. It is the freedom. Yeah. It is having the plan. It is literally open my notebook and you will see a 5-page personal operating system in there. All I have to do is follow it. And I'm going to be successful. All my clients have to do.
Is this in your book, this operating? Is this part of?
No, the operating system came after the book, which is ironic. And When you write a book, if you put out a book, here's the interesting thing I found about writing a book. By the time your book comes out, you are so far past it.
Right.
You're on to the next book and the next one. The operating system came out of the conversations that were in my book.
Yeah.
It's those conversations from other amazing men that taught me how I was going to live my life. I took a little bit from each one. It's that concept that is in the book called aggregate, curate, and eliminate. We aggregate from conversations that are out there, all the noise. We curate it down to what works for us, and we are relentless about eliminating what does not. And what you're left with is simplicity. What you're left with is something that you can follow. Because if you don't know where you're going, you are not going to get there.
I like the multifaceted nature of what you're doing. I like the fact that, a lot of thought leaders will talk about, kind of certain things. I like that what you're talking about is, to your point, is an operating system. It's an organized way to do all of this, because I often feel at odds with the sheer, I literally feel it all the time, literally the sheer amount of things that I need to do. Like, I was sitting at my desk earlier, I was finishing up my preparation for this, for our talk. And it's like, I got text messages, phone calls, constant, the school's calling. But, to your point, if there is a way to better manage this, or not to better manage it, just to manage it in general versus kind of catching falling knives as they come. And it sounds like this is what you're teaching people.
Well, I think it's being proactive versus reactive.
Yes.
What you get is simplifying it to an extent. But if you have standards and you have boundaries, then this again becomes much simpler. Mm-hmm. Do you have any free time, Gary?
No.
Correct. Because none of your time is free. So why do we keep giving it away to people as if it is?
Wow. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So you want
just today.
Can you meet me for coffee? I cannot. Would you like to have lunch?
That's tough.
I'm sorry, I cannot. It's extremely hard. And that's why we've got to get the reps in. The reason it's so hard is because we don't have the reps. We haven't practiced it.
No, but hold on a sec. Hold on. But, one of the things that I think is really important is to be kind, is to be thoughtful, and, to treat people well. I think that we can all agree that that's something that, as men, we should all strive for. So literally today I had two guys call me, and it's not even for business. It's just, we haven't seen each other in a while. Mm-hmm. Gary, would love to see you. Everyone's kind of pitching me to come over to my house and do sauna and cold plunge, and I couldn't say no. So I scheduled them. But what I did was I scheduled them like 2 months out. But how do you say no?
Okay, so that's
because they're not ill-intentioned, right?
Correct. This is not about being a bad guy. Look, there's guilt or regret. We don't want to say no. We don't want to come across as bad guys. You want to be kind and generous. We got to take that off the table. Take it off the table. Your intentions are good. Their intentions are good.
Of course.
But just like we said, show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities.
Yeah.
Guess what? My priorities are not your priorities, and your priorities are not my priorities. So nobody's wrong here. They want some of your time. You either can or cannot give it to them. Or again, when? It may not be wrong. It probably isn't wrong. It might just be not right now. So there are a couple of ways that I've been able to also, I think, maximize being able to give as much of myself as I possibly can, with also protecting the boundaries and space that I need.
How?
Because one, I like being alone. It's another thing.
Okay.
I think self-care is not selfish. I need a lot of that. Mm-hmm. Family is coming first, work, all of those other things. So one of them is, again, I use Calendly.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants my time, hey, I'm going to send you a link to my calendar. Okay, hop on, find an available time. If this is somebody that meets the criteria that I am willing to even give time to. And there's criteria in the operating system. Mm-hmm. So I'll send you a link to Calendly. We'll get 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute link.
15-minute increments.
Yes, it's not an hour, which means I'll meet you, which means I have to drive there.
Yeah.
Then we have to sit down. Then it's hard to get away from somebody face-to-face if you need to. I mean, this becomes a bigger thing. It's a 15-minute link to the calendar. Mm-hmm. Now here, I'll give away the secret on here also, is I never book things back-to-back. So if this is going well and we want to extend it, I never have anything back-to-back. I always leave 45 minutes to an hour in between calls and meetings and clients. If it's going well, we can extend this. If it's going so well that it actually requires a meeting, we can set up the meeting on there. If it's not going well, get off the phone.
I didn't know.
In 15 minutes.
Coming into this, I didn't realize how important like basic scheduling is. Like, I mean, I knew it was important. I didn't think I'd be talking about it in this conversation, which I'm glad.
I think it's at the heart Really,
Really?
I think it is at the heart of maximizing middle age is what we do with our time and how we measure it and how we quantify
And how
it.
we organize it.
Absolutely. And that is what creates all this magical open space.
Amazing. I want to switch gears a little and I want to talk about fitness because fitness at our age looks very different than fitness for a much younger man. Okay. So, you know, I've recently, not recently, probably in the last 3-4 years, I've been training kind of on and off my whole life, but I've been really serious about it the last, 3-4 years. And I'm this like, now I'm the annoying friend. And when I run into my buddies who are my age or like a little, within the same range, and I see that they're a mess, like they look terrible, I tell them, I basically look at them and I say, you're going to die. Like it's not going well for you. And I you know what I tell them? I say, you're probably past the point of no return, but you might still have a chance, meaning start now. Your diet, your fitness, like get a trainer, get a nutritionist and start now. Because, if you're 50 years old and you're overweight and you look terrible, it's not going to go well for you, because when you start getting into your mid 50s, late 50s, 60s, 70s, you're going to fall apart. And I tell them that, and I try to scale them. So I'm that annoying guy now. So talk to me about that threshold. Is there a point? Am I full of shit? Like, is there actually a point of no return for men where like you might as well give up because you're not going to get better? Because to me, I felt that. To me in my mid 40s, I had like a real wake up call, and nothing happened. I just said to myself, if I don't pull myself together, then the second half of my life is going to be hell. So what's your take on this?
Well, I think some of us have wake-up calls that we don't wake up from, and that's very unfortunate. I think if you're that guy that has the wake-up call and you do something with it, congratulations, good for you. I don't believe it's ever too late, because I don't think it's about the outcome. I think a lot of times we fixate on the outcome versus the actions, meaning like you're going to die is an outcome, or I'm going to be super healthy is an outcome.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's a lot of white space in the middle. And you know what's going to make you happier, what is going to make you healthier, what is going to potentially like you live longer and enjoy the time that you have better? Take action. It's what you do today. It's what you do tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It is swapping that soda for water. It is taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It is walking instead of being sedentary. It is, it's not about going from I'm out of shape, I'm going to die, I'm 50, to I'm going to go be jacked and do some Ironman or CrossFit competition, or let me get ripped abs. The aesthetics are a bonus of how you're actually living. Everybody's bodies respond aesthetically to stimulus differently,
right?
Overall. So this really is about, can you be the best of what you are genetically predispositioned to be? Can you make smart choices again?
Can we push beyond genetics?
I'm sure we can. But at the same time, the middle is messy. This is the same with everything, but the middle is also the sweet spot. And I'm all about mastering the middle. So I see some of these guys that are hacking out there and they want to live to be 120 and they want to take handfuls of supplements every day and they want to be injecting them stuff. That doesn't sound like any fucking fun to me.
So I'm that guy. I am that guy. So I don't take it offensively what you're saying. It's a very matter of fact. Like I work with a what would you call him? I guess he's give me a second. I'm going to come up with it. A functional medicine guy.
Like a functional medical practitioner.
Functional medicine guy. Yeah.
And again, I'm not an all or nothing. I don't do nothing. Again, there's a lot of white space here. There's a lot of white space between me and Brian Johnson, or whoever that guy is, that's spending millions of dollars a year to be 18 again.
I recently started following him.
All these things are in the extreme. It's an all or nothing. I'm either healthy or unhappy, or unhealthy. And again, figure out what your middle looks like. Figure out what your happy medium looks like. Again, if I want to be 175 and 10 to 12% body fat and be able to move well and look pretty good naked, what's it going to take? Do I get my blood work done? Yes. Do I have a sauna and a cold plunge in my house? Yes. Do I take TRT? Yes. Do I take it? Yes. Do I take a handful of supplements in the morning? Yes.
So I take TRT
as well. Am I literally a lab rat who spends all of his time thinking about everything that goes on my body and in my body? Absolutely not. Am I passing on the fries at dinner? Most of the time.
Yeah.
80-20, again, back to, harmony, total life wellness, things that seem to me enjoyable. I don't want to spend my life sacrificing to the point of no fun.
Yeah, it's tough. I think for me, like if we're just, kind of talking just, out of experience, for me, the biggest problem is diet. Like I can be in the gym like 5-6 days a week. That's no problem. I can do the TRT. I can do the supplements. It's just that diet is the tough part. So what do you say to men who, like me, let's say, for example, I'm soliciting for free advice here. Look, what do you say to guys like me who, like, I have the discipline to be in the gym, like, 5-6 days a week at 6 a.m. I have the discipline to because by the way, like doing the injections, like remembering to do them all the time and taking as many pills as I do, like I have to remember to do it. So I feel that that's its own like discipline, the cold plunging, the sauna, although that's far more enjoyable. Maybe not after minute 3 in the cold plunge, then it's getting a little, not fun. But food has always been the problem. So do you find like with your clientele, like where is that? Like for me, the breaking point is that's my weak link is the food. Where's the kind of the weak link for men who are trying to get fit?
Sure. I think it's different for everybody. And again, I think it's back to what's important to you. So if having a 6-pack, if you will, is super important, then you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices with your nutrition in order to achieve that. Unless you are very genetically gifted,
sure.
And that's highly unlikely in your 50s and 60s it's going to be very difficult.
Right.
Again, if you want to be,
I know that you have a 6-pack. Is it difficult for you?
No.
I've seen the photos of you.
No, it's not that difficult for me.
So it's a genetic thing for you.
Look, my abs respond genetically well to stimulus. I train very, very hard. There are some other misconceptions that are like, you are not going to start yourself on TRT and automatically get in good shape.
No, of course not.
No. Not at all. I mean, everyone is looking for shortcuts, and shortcuts do not exist. Do you want to extend your life? Do you want sustainability? Do you want longevity? Do you want a little help? I went on at 49. I'm 51, for example, right now. There are a lot of guys hopping on a lot of shit very, very early. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we can go down. But nothing is going to replace actually doing the work in any one of these areas.
No,
I see you at the gym.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the guy's name is, but the diamonds on the floor and the black turf on the floor. I've passed it when I'm down here.
That was DBC.
And you go to a few. Yeah. And you have to put in the work no matter what. And you have to define what success again looks like for you.
Yeah.
So if that's getting ripped, here are the sacrifices you're going to have to make. Here's what you're going to have to do physically. Here's what you're going to have to do nutritionally. And what the balance is, again, the way you design your operating system and what I work with guys on right now is you have to figure out, again, what works for you. My rules all work for anybody, but you have to put them in motion, meaning, again, how you dress, how you train, what you want the results to be, and then reverse engineer into the actions you're going to take. I don't train for 2 hours a day. Every day.
How many days a week do you train?
I train about 5 days a week. Kate's sitting here, so she can either nod or not. I train about 5 days a week, give or take an hour and a half time. I do recovery 3 to 4, maybe 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Again, in there, I mix up a lot of modalities, but I've also been doing this a while. And I'm not training for anything specific anymore, including aesthetics. I'm training to feel good so that I can show up the way that I want to show up as a husband, as a father, as a provider, as a man who wants to take his shirt off.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Talk to me about mental clarity. Talk to me about mental clarity as we age, because for myself, despite the fact that I'm on all these, different treatments and that I work out all the time, sometimes I feel like I'm not as sharp mentally, like especially when I'm going through my day and I have to maybe have another cup of coffee, which now I'm down to 1 cup a day in the mornings, at 5 a.m. before I go to the gym, and then I don't have coffee anymore. But talk to me about that. Talk to me about like what are men in their middle age experiencing when it comes to mental acuity?
Well, what you're talking about is energy.
Is it energy?
So I think it's tied together. For me, it was energy, which also related to mental acuity. The reason I went on TRT at 49, after getting my blood work done every year from 40 on, and at that point I was competing against guys in various things that I knew were taking a lot of stuff, and my goal was to not take anything for as long as possible.
Okay.
But at 49, I changed my tune on this not because I wanted to get bigger or stronger or faster or win anything, but because I was tired of being tired. I was getting tired. I was getting tired earlier in the day. I wasn't recovering as well from the things that I enjoyed doing. I did not want to stop doing them or limit the way that I did them. and I still wanted to be able to do them and go to my kids' game and be able to go to dinner and be able to wake up a certain way. It was really all about energy, and energy relates to mental acuity and to clarity.
Right.
So I did want to be able to function at a high level.
So I think my first question is there a decline in mental acuity? And I think the answer to that is yes. With age, there is
Yeah,
going
I think
to be.
it comes from, again, I'm not going to get out over my skis or be a doctor or anything, but for me, I was tired. My levels were lower.
Right.
And what I wanted was to bring back my energy and bring back some of the clarity.
And is that-
at 49, at 49, that happened.
Right.
It took a while to dial it in.
So what was it? What do you think was the tipping point that actually did it between all of the different things that you're doing? Like, what should a man who's starting to notice a decline in mental acuity, what should he be prioritizing?
I think you should be prioritizing what you were talking about earlier. One is you got to find a horse. You got to pick a horse. Because again, there's so much noise out there. Who do you trust? Who do you believe? Go get yourself a very good doctor. Okay. Interview the best and the brightest or whoever you think. Ask people that you trust. Okay. Interview a number of them. Again, aggregate from what's out there, curate down to who you think is the best to help you, and eliminate anybody that can't.
Gotcha.
Then work with that individual, get your blood work done, know where you stand. And like all of this, again, we're back to have a plan. And the plan that I set in looking at the blood work, looking at my age, looking what we were trying to achieve overall, what is the minimum effective dose of anything that I need to do in order to get me where I want to go? Because more is easy. Like, I don't want more.
Right.
I want the minimum effective dose to perform at the level and live the way that I want in all of these areas. If 500 grand a year gives you the life that you want, great. If 10 clients give you that number, fantastic. If 4 workouts a week keep you at 175 and 10 to 12% body fat and you're happy as can be, like, why are we constantly looking at more, when it actually should be, you go back to time. Why would I do 20 reps if 10 reps is going to get it done? Why would I'm going to go throw the ball with my kid? So all of this backs into the system. It's all connected.
Yeah. No. Well, it sounds like it. Let's talk about relationship, and let's talk about sexuality, because for men who are in middle age, I don't want to get too personal because my wife would probably kill me, but I don't feel that decline. And I'm not trying to boast or anything, but I don't feel that decline. But do a lot of men feel that? So, okay, again, not to get we're going to get a little risque, right? So when we're talking about men in general, I feel that men in their 20s and 30s, their sexuality is such a dominant factor in their lives that we as men, we can't even think straight. And I think women don't understand what goes on in a man who's in his 20s and 30s. We literally can't think straight because it's such a dominant force in our lives. It's that is all we know. That is all we pursue. And everything that we do and every dollar we earn is meant to, potentially impress women so that, we can increase the breadth of our sexual partners before we settle down. And I found that, in my 40s and 50s, it's still as important. It's just now doesn't take over my life. Meaning, if I have to go somewhere, I don't have to stop and go and engage in that activity. I can actually go and get things done. So talk to me about sexuality in middle age and what goes on for men.
I think it's a real challenge for a lot of guys.
You're talking about ED?
Well, I think a few things that are there. I think confidence levels for guys in midlife
Due to what?
are low.
Due to what?
I think they don't look as good. They don't feel as good. Maybe they haven't earned what they thought. They're midlife. When you say midlife to somebody, the first word that comes to mind is typically
crisis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not incredible, right? It's associated. It's synonymous with crisis. It's synonymous with men for conformity, complacency, redundancy, kind of boredom. These guys are not, for the most part, happy when they're looking in the mirror. Confidence, because of that, is low. That affects performance.
Yeah.
So whether that's ED, whether that's I have to lift my stomach up to take a look at what's under there,
right.
She has to lift my stomach. None of these are good things.
No.
And then it also looks ridiculous when you're the galactically unattractive guy, with the very young, attractive woman.
Well, that's a whole other socioeconomic.
Yes, but that starts messing with your confidence also. What are we doing here? What's here? That's why there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal not too long ago about the real CEO flex. I don't know if you've seen this.
No.
And that the real CEO flex now is these titans of industry, these big time CEOs who realize they have everything except their health. They're all getting jacked now.
Right.
Why are they getting
Bezos is a perfect example.
Right. Why are they getting jacked? Why are they prioritizing their health? Because they're tired of looking foolish. Mm-hmm. It's a confidence thing. You're really tall standing on your money, but you're still
Yeah.
like you're still missing it.
Look,
like we all get it here.
Absolutely. Listen,
So
I
it
mean,
affects you.
sorry, I've been in much worse shape than I am now. Like right now, I'm on a good path, and I can tell you, like walking into a room when you're in better shape than versus when you're not in as good of a shape, and just the vibe and the way people perceive you and the respect.
Well, this
that
is
you
exactly
get.
what it's
Not
about.
just
It's
from
about
women.
how
I'm
you
talking-
perceive
yeah.
yourself and how you want to be perceived
Yeah,
by others.
absolutely.
And this is about personal pride. And this is about, you can't buy this. You got to earn this.
Absolutely.
And there's something that comes with that. Now, we're talking about sexuality here. Of course that affects your sexuality. Now, does your sex drive naturally, in a way, decrease as you get older? Yes, but I will tell you this much. If you are happy and you are healthy and you are taking care of yourself and you feel good and you're prioritizing these things, you're going to gravitate. You're going to be more sexually attractive. You're going to be more sexually interested. And it's also back to now quality over quantity. 20s, 30s, whatever, you can be looking for quantity. You've got super. Now what we're really talking about is, I think, quality. Mm-hmm. Like every other aspect that we're talking about here is you want good sexuality, you want good sex drive, you want to be attracted, you want to be attracted to, you want to feel appreciated. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
We attract and repel exactly what we deserve. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not about being...
I love that quote. We attract and repel exactly what we deserve.
Yes. And it's not about being jacked again. It's about, again, you're making the right decisions. You're doing good things. You're making progress. That is health. That is fitness. Mm-hmm. That naturally starts to increase sex drive, attraction. Like that's an aura. Like that's that perception that you're talking about. People get fixated, I think, on the appearance thing and like the whole, like just feel good. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. The rest of it will take care of.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You often come back. We took a turn and we started talking about midlife male sexuality. And it's interesting how you came back to fitness and you came back to, and I feel that that's it's just that common denominator in everything that we do. How does it affect our careers? How does it affect as a midlife man? I kind of don't like that term, I got to say. And I know that your whole academy is called this, but I don't feel like I'm in my midlife. I understand chronologically I am, but.
So that's an interesting one. First of all, I think the definition of midlife or whatever, it's stretching again, as we touched on a little bit. I know old 30-year-olds. I know young 60-year-olds. I do think what's important is we emphasize that wherever the middle is for you, it's the middle. It's not the beginning and it's not the end.
Yeah.
And this is where we have that opportunity to determine what comes next. Mm-hmm. So wherever your middle is, figure out how we're going to master it and how we're going to move forward and see our best days ahead of us.
Yes.
And not behind us.
Not behind us.
A lot of this comes back to fitness, as you were saying, but what I would really say is it comes back down around to health. When we even talk about fitness
and health,
fitness is
intertwined.
But we're talking about mental fitness, spiritual fitness, financial fitness.
I want to get to those
physical
things.
Fitness. Again, I think they're all connected. I'm not trying to keep them all together.
Yeah.
But you act specifically in these areas, but they are all connected.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to maybe parlay from sex to a relationship. Let's assume that for the most part, although it's not 100%, the case all the time, but for the most part, a man in his 40s and 50s, he has already a partner long term. Yes, I understand there's divorce and there's all kinds of changes in that status, but as a man who's in his 40s and 50s, how do we keep, or how do men, or from your clients, what are you seeing? First of all, what is the common problem with maintaining relationships in terms of just the intimacy, not just sexually, but just as partners? And you have so many distractions: kids, business, travel. A lot of the times you're taking care of 3 generations simultaneously, right? You're taking care of your parents, yourselves, and your kids. So all of this kind of, this activity and stress, how do you keep essentially a marriage or like a long-term partner? How do you keep that mental connection?
Look, it's very challenging. And my wife, Kate, is in the room.
She
is in the room.
I'm not shy.
Right?
I'm doing it when she's here. Yeah. My wife's not in the room. So yeah, but.
Well, one of the ways I think you do it is we're trying to do more together, quite frankly, right now. Here's the perfect example. It's an opportunity to come down to Miami. Easy to just, I can make this about work. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm going to record a couple of episodes of my podcast. I'm going to guest on your podcast and go to this thing, turn around and come right back. Or, hey, is there an opportunity for us to do this together? Right. Can you join me? Can we spend the day? Would it be nice to meet this other couple? Also, it's down there. I think there are a number of things, and we could take it back to the beginning. Now, we've been married 23 years, about 25 together, and we have 2 boys, as you mentioned, 17 and 20. We stopped doing what we did to get our wives. Why don't I stop doing them?
That's the problem, right?
Like you stop dating your wife. There's a lot of, you start taking one another for granted, and life changes. And here's the other thing. If you got married in your 20s, you don't really know what kind of husband, father, mother, and like we change.
Right.
And at different ages and stages, you're 2 ships passing in the wind with the kids. You're going this way, she's going that way. You're taking this one, you're taking the others. You're tired, you're building your career. All these things are happening. And then you wake up and it's 15 years, 20 years have gone by, and here you are in your 50s, and you're a year and a half or so away from being empty nesters, and you have to really, again, you have to continue to reconnect. So I think there's this reconnection that you have to continue to invest in the relationship and go through the difficult or challenging times. Mm-hmm. You have to continue to try to prioritize one another. You have to accept one another's, I think, individuality and personal growth, because over the course of your lives, you are going to change. She is going to change. We all are. So what is it that we can also do separately and independently? What is it that we do together? How, again, or do we stay in alignment on all of this?
So I have a theory on this. I want to interject. I'm clearly not a specialist.
Listen, I'm here to learn.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate that. I mean, my theory, it's the same theory I have on how to attract a partner as how to keep a partner. Because I have young men come to me. I often say I won the marriage lottery because I love my wife. She's the best. She's just I can go on and on, but I'm very fortunate and I'm very blessed. And young men will ask me, what do you do? Or they'll say to me, I can't find the right woman and this and that. And I often ask them, I say, well, like, are you doing everything you can to be the best version of yourself? And that's what I find to find that partner. And again, we're talking from the perspective of men, right? Mm-hmm. So as a man, when you're single and your career's, not in alignment, your health is not in alignment, you don't look good, which by the way, when you're in your 20s and 30s, it's much easier to look good.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do much, right? So, all of these things, and that's what I tell them. So my theory is that when you get older, and what I strive to do to keep that closeness with my wife is, in addition to spending time with her, which, look, admittedly, that's where we're limited, right? We're limited on time because of all the responsibilities. But one of the things I make sure I do is try to be the best version of myself. So I'm in the gym constantly. I'm doing all these treatments. I'm trying to, as much as I can, like read and educate myself. And even this podcast isn't a business for me. This is a hobby and an education for me, because I get to speak with people like yourself. So I'm always striving to be the best version of myself in order to keep my marriage good and solid. So what do you think of that strategy?
I think all of those are the things. I think you're living and leading by example. Back to what we just talked about, attracting and repelling exactly what you deserve. Your kids are seeing this. Mm-hmm. Your wife is seeing this. You're doing this. It's filling your tank rather than emptying it.
Right.
All of those things are positive. I think that's what's attractive. It's the actions, again, that you're taking. It's not the outcome you're getting is that you're attractive. The outcome that you're getting is that it's deepening your relationship. It's cementing your marriage. It's keeping the physical attraction. It's all of those things. It's the actions that you're taking versus, again, I'm giving up. I'm throwing in the towel. Right. My best days are behind me. I don't care what I look like anymore because I've
not an option.
I've made it or whatever. Or look, I've heard this. Oh well, she ain't going anywhere. Or this. You start taking one another for granted in all of these areas.
Yeah.
And it's of course it's hard, But I would also offer, and we get to choose our hard.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not, we hear this a lot now, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. We get to choose our hard. I would offer, it is hard to be fit. I would offer that it is harder to be fat.
Yes.
Okay. It is hard, okay, to be married. I would offer that it is harder to be single, and lonely in middle age.
Yeah.
And so many men are.
Yeah.
Like all of these are, again, back to being choices. It's hard to be wealthy, rich, whatever you want to define it as. I would offer it's harder to be struggling, to be broke, to be in financial despair.
Absolutely. No, look, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to talk about something that I think may be a little controversial. Are you open to controversial discussions?
I'm here.
All right.
Hey, it's your birthday.
Yeah,
Let's
fair.
go.
That's fair. That's fair. What's your opinion on this whole kind of, I don't want to call it a debate, but this whole thing about age gap relationships, typically where the man is considerably older than the woman?
This actually just came up the other day. I had a woman on the podcast. It hasn't even aired yet. I had Jen Cohen on the podcast, and we were talking about this as well. And this comes up a lot. And in one of my groups, I have a group of guys. We call it the inner circle. And I have a couple of guys that are single, actually.
Yeah.
One divorced, one never married.
40s and 50s.
40s and 50s. And this is one of the midlife stereotypes that you see out there all the time. Again, you say the one word is crisis, you say midlife, you say crisis, then your mind goes to yellow Porsche, young chick, like all these things. And then like the list keeps going. My opinion is, I think it's fucking ridiculous.
What the yellow Porsche
listen,
or the...
If you got hit by a bus tomorrow, I am not dating a 20-year-old.
Right.
I'm not getting into a relationship with a 20-year-old or even like a 30-year-old. I think it looks like for me, I would feel ridiculous. I would feel ridiculous getting out of my sports car, walking in with somebody that looks like my daughter. Fair. It's not interesting to me. It doesn't seem to make me feel good overall. So again, I think there's something very sexy. I think there's something very attractive about maturity, about experience, about somebody who is pro-aging versus anti-aging. Who's doing it super, super well, that you can talk to, that you share the same interests in movies and health and fitness and travel. To me, that's a lot more interesting. Listen, you want to go do it if it's your thing, like more power to you. And again, I'll make no assumptions or judgment to tell you not to. And if you've been married for a long period of time and all of a sudden you're not, and you need to get certain things out of your system, that's what comes up a lot.
You're talking about guys who are like married and they potentially separate from their wife that's about their same age.
And by the way, this is happening a lot now. Look, divorce rates are through the roof in general. Okay, and what happens, what we see a lot of in men and women in middle age, it's not always the guys that want to get divorced. See a lot of women that are deciding that they want to get divorced in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of life ahead of them and they feel underappreciated or the relationship isn't working. Or by the way, now we are empty nesters and we realize like we've weathered the storm, but we really don't have anything in common anymore and we really aren't going to stick together, and they end up single.
Right.
And it's what do we do? What do we do from here? And a lot of what they end up doing from there is what they should have been doing before they got there, or they wouldn't be here. Meaning like, what happens? Oh, you're divorced now? Or, oh, you somehow ended up single again, or your wife cheated on you, or your wife, guess what you're doing? Now you're in the gym. Now you got a nutritionist, okay? Now you want to go into couples therapy, of course, when you can't even get her back anymore. All these things that had you done them, had you been proactive, you might not be where you are now. But I'll also end with this. I get both sides. If you're not happily married and you've given it everything, might be the right decision for you. You're back to being the best version of yourself and living the best life you possibly can.
Yeah.
Do you want to live the next phase, what could be the best phase of your life, unhappy? Again, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No, of course not. But it makes me sad, when I hear about people that I know who, because there's that wave, right? So at some point we all get married by not all of us. I mean, people get married at different stages of their life. And then at some stage you have this wave of divorces, just people that socially and one after the other, people get divorced. And it's always so sad for me. It's always something that I feel that people have to do their best to stay together. They shouldn't stay in an unhappy marriage. I don't agree with that. But they should really exhaust all options.
I agree with that too. Absolutely. Because look, the premise of what we're talking about here is how do you maximize middle age? And you talk about living happier, living healthier, wealthier, living longer, living stronger, having more sex.
Yeah.
All of those things. If you're in a loving, committed, mutually beneficial, mutually respectful relationship, I think you have a much higher probability of, again, all of those other things. Now, the actions you take and the choices you make are going to lead you, again, towards those outcomes again. Now, if you happen to be single for whatever the reason might be, look, my mother was a widow in her 40s, remember. She's remarried now, too. Situations and circumstances can defeat you or they can define you. Mm-hmm. You just have to, again, go back to making the right choices, taking the right actions, determining what's
Sorry, hold on a sec. What's up? Yeah, Ben's school. Ben's at school.
What are you guys watching?
We're just, we're recording a podcast. Ben is at school. Do you want to come back after school? Maybe in the afternoon, like at 5?
5?
Yeah.
Why is everyone coming back on 5?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of when school is. But he's at school and he'll be back. He'll be back later on.
I'm surprised that the other schools don't have school today.
I'm gonna have a talk with the principal and we're gonna see what we can do.
Today we don't have school.
You don't have school
You
today?
are lucky.
Today? What's today? Maybe because it's my birthday, the school's decided to close.
Friday the 16th.
It's 3:20 in the afternoon.
That's when they get out, right?
That's-
We used to get out at 3:20, I remember.
No, he didn't have school today.
He's off,
I was
we
in
do.
my office at 1:00. I saw this kid coming up, circling around, trying to find. But it's
That's
nice.
awesome.
It's nice that he's coming over
That's
and
great.
he wants to hang
Listen,
out.
and
Yeah.
he's certainly not afraid to have a conversation with a bunch of grown-ups and ask what's going on.
I love
Good
the
for-
fact
good
that
for
he just
him.
knocked on the door, walked
Yeah.
in. He goes, "What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing, guys? Keep that in this podcast. This is great. This is the
Listen,
benefit
I
of
gotta tell
doing
you,
it."
I think it's great. We can get it as a father. I think it's great too.
Yeah.
He comes over. He knocks on the door. He asks some questions. And his face is out of the phone. Like anytime you get their faces out
Oh.
of the phone or anything else, to have physical, face-to-face communication, interaction, and actually play, go ride a bike. You had a helmet on.
I love it.
I'll take that all day.
Oh, that's, you know what? That is like, at this point, the bane of my existence. This whole technology, it's just terrible. And, we're constantly going through it. And it's just such a hard thing to get control of because, and I know we're kind of switching gears and going into a topic that maybe isn't.
But this
like-
it's a real, if you keep it in, it's a real life moment,
Yeah.
and what's very interesting again is back to, you talk about living and leading by example. Your boys see what you're doing.
yeah.
They see how you're living. They see your relationship with their mother. They see you in the cold. They see you exercising, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to. The reality is you don't have to.
No, but that's where I disagree with
Okay.
you. I do have to.
Okay?
That's in my mind. I have to.
So I get that too. You are making that choice. You get to. You're making that choice. Now you have to in your mind because it is so important to you
Yeah.
as a husband, as a father, as a man, that this is part of your identity. You need it. That's the self-guide. That's what you do. It's not That's why it's not selfish. It is selfless. You want to set that example. You are setting that example.
It's the most important thing for me.
That is the way you live. It's not
Yeah.
it's not negotiable. It's not an option, whether you're on vacation or whether you're at work or whether you're it doesn't matter whether you live in Toronto or you've moved to Miami. It is just who you are.
Absolutely. No, it has to be done.
And that's what makes you authentically influential rather than being a fucking influencer like so much that's out there. Like just a bunch of good-looking guys that happen to turn 40 and now declare that all they're going to do is get you fit in over 40. They just tack on over
Yeah.
40 to certain things.
Yeah.
Like these are the things that mess with guys' heads.
I never took any of this stuff. Like, to me, it's not this race to be a certain person or to stay a certain way. I like steady progression, and I've always liked steady progression because to me, yeah, it's nice when you have let's say you'll have a year with your career when you do this, or you have physically you have an advancement where, something like when I started doing cold plunge, like I was having a problem. Okay. So from a fitness perspective, I'll just do a little tangent, then I come back. From a fitness perspective, I feel like physically that I am healthy now. right? So the workouts that I've been doing and all my protocols and my diet, like I feel that I'm healthy. Aesthetically, I'd like to have less body fat, but I'm healthy. But just going back to like, you know, with the cold plunge, that actually got my body fat down. I started seeing my body fat come off with doing nothing changing besides doing cold plunge pretty much daily. But yeah, so to me, it's all about progression. So yeah, if you have these little like, you know, peaks from time to time, great, those are bonuses. But I've always been about progression. That's what I'm trying to show my kids.
Absolutely. I think there's something to this 1% better every day concept. I think compound interest is a wonderful thing.
I
as
agree.
we know, as entrepreneurs and businessmen, I think all of these are series of little wins that we're achieving. And I love progression, and progression again works everywhere too. You can't skip steps. You know, I've had 200 plus conversations on my podcast alone.
Wow.
The stories that
You've
went
had 200
into
episodes.
We're almost at 250.
Oh, good for you.
Right now. And
You'll be, I think, 39 or 40.
Fantastic. Yeah. But that's it. You keep showing up. It's consistency.
Yeah.
What do? You start with 1, then it's 2, then it's 3. You don't skip steps. If you're getting healthy again, and we're using a number of fitness references, it's fine, but you can apply them anywhere. You're not walking into the gym after being sedentary for 6 years, taking a barbell out, putting a few hundred pounds in it, and deadlifting.
No.
I mean, we are going to start with body weight. We're going to move to a PVC pipe. We're going to move to something. There's going to be a progression in all of these things. And what's going to start happening is you are going to feel better about yourself as you make progress. And progress is a process. And that's what we're all doing here. We're in process. We haven't figured it out. We're not at the end. We're still in the middle. And all of these categories, again, like, just enjoy the progress that you're making and enjoy the process, and the outcome will be inevitable.
Talk to me about let's talk a little bit about career and business. So, you know, there's I forgot the quote. It was a comparison is the thief of all joy or something like that.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Who said that? It was
I think it was Roosevelt.
Yes, it was Roosevelt. Yes, correct. I recently
you got that right? We recording that? Okay.
Yes,
I almost never get those.
Yes. No, it was Roosevelt. I recently used that quote in an Instagram post, and I Googled it. So that was a few days ago. So yes, it was Roosevelt. You know, comparison is the thief of all joy, and and when you're in your 40s and 50s as a man, there are always going to be guys who are doing significantly better than you. So what is your advice to the people that you work with, to the people that you coach, to the men that you coach, when they are in this rut where they're in their 40s and 50s and they've tried really hard their whole lives and they've gotten to a place, but then they've got buddies who have just people that they know who have just like exponentially done better, which happens, you know, which is normal. What do you say to those guys who are having a hard time reconciling that and getting past that? Is it something that comes up, or is it just me who brings it up?
It comes up all the time.
Okay.
And you know who's usually thinking about it and who's usually bringing it up are typically the ones that you would look at and you go, that's the most successful. That's the guy that's doing so much better out there. And there's the rub. Because, like you said, comparison, 1 is the thief of joy out there. And who's to say what better is? I mean, are we only defining that better because look at him and his house. Look at him and his car.
Money's a pretty definitive like measuring stick.
Look, it is for men. Again, and that's why so many men get fixated and over-index on chasing salary, title, money, because that is the typical defining metric of success for a man. But I can tell you as a man who works specifically with high net worth middle-aged men. My clients are 7- and 8-figure guys.
Like
they're quote unquote
like
made
annual
men.
Or net worth you're talking?
Like annual. Okay. Like $1 billion hedge funds, like, you know, gigantic attorneys, you know, like made like multiple exits. Every one of them buy me and sell me 50 times over on there. And I can also tell you, I'm not hearing from happy guys.
Really? So, okay, let me ask you this. Well, I mean, look, the fact that they're your client.
Totally unhappy necessarily either. It is, hey, I can tell you that money doesn't buy happiness. That is true. Money is a resource and it is a tool and it buys a lot of amazing things. And if you're a generally happy individual, it's going to provide you with a lot of experiences and other things to make you happier, but it is not the end all be all.
What is the end all be all?
I think that's what we got to figure out. And I think that's what everybody has to figure out. Sometimes it's a number. Sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes it's a health.
Hold on.
I think it's all of those things.
Hold on. I want to go back a little bit because you made the statement that all of these successful men, not all of these, but like a large amount of these successful men, you feel that they're not necessarily happy. Now, by default, the fact that you're coaching them and the fact that they're your clients, they're already entering kind of your life with this feeling of something is.
So here's what's positive. One, they're very self-aware and they want to continue to learn. They want to continue to get better. They have the same issues as we do, whether it's family, whether it's fitness, whether it's confidence, whether it's insecurity, whether it's I'm still taking too many meetings and I have not figured out how to even tell the 4 assistants I have to schedule fewer meetings for me because I've been doing this for 25 years and I don't actually even know what the alternative is. So I want to slow down, but I only know speeding up. I'm unhappy in we covered all these topics. I'm unhappy in my relationship. We've been taking each other for granted for too long. I'm not in the shape that I want to be in. I'm lonely. I don't have the kind of friends. By the way, I've been golfing every weekend. I've been playing poker. I've been drinking. Guess what? I actually don't want to do any of those things with any of these people anymore. But I'm afraid if I stop doing them, I won't have any friends.
Yeah.
How do I?
Sorry, 1 second. That's the gate phone. Sorry about that. I apologize. It's the pitfalls of doing this from home. Sorry, I usually have staff here at this time. I usually have and I don't know where she is.
No worries. These are all real. These are the real life things. This is the stuff that I like. I like the kids walking in the door.
That's
I like when the phone rings because again, this is the real life stuff that we should keep in, which is like, listen, I don't care if you make $500 million a year, $1 billion a year. You know what? Somebody's going to interrupt you. Okay. Sometime.
That's why I don't take this too seriously. Like this podcast is my, like I said, it's how I learn. And it's a hobby for me. If it becomes something good, if it doesn't, there's just so many benefits to it.
It's the same way that I started mine, which was I wanted to have conversations with people that I thought were interesting. I want to know where the puck is going, not where it is.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk to people that can help me learn. They can help me show me things that I may not know. What's around that bend? Again, I'm a slow learner and a late bloomer. How are you doing it? I'm just always curious. How are you doing it? How do you eat? How do you sleep? How do you manage your money? What do you buy? I like looking around. I even used your crew for an earlier recording.
I know
Who
you
do
did,
you use? Okay, you take good recommendations from good people. That's how you
know
get
what else
better.
you and I have in common? We're both knowledge junkies. And I just coined that phrase right now. But the reason being, for me is because I grew up at a time, and it's funny, 'cause again, we're the same age, but you and I both grew up at a time where there wasn't the internet at scale. There wasn't all of this. Like, we didn't know what we didn't know. And I feel that young people right now, they have such an advantage that they have access to all of these conversations going on. Like, I can't even imagine how many millions of podcasts are going up every day.
They do. So that's another thing. How do we cut through the noise, and how, again, do we know who to trust and who do we believe? Jason and I were having this conversation earlier. It's like something goes wrong.
Jason
Waka of Mind Body Green.
Yes, who was a guest on my show. Right?
Yeah, and who introduced us. And now we're here. And by the way, guys ask all the time, how do you make friends? How do you make connections?
Yeah.
How do you combat the loneliness of midlife that is there? How do you find like-minded people? Well, this is exactly how you do it.
Which is funny. I don't feel lonely at all. I actually feel like I have to start filtering more in terms of the people. We're we're in social media, so we're fortunate. My wife has a fairly large audience. I'm starting to get a little bit of traction myself. So for us, we just have this kind of our top of funnel, meaning the people that we meet. We're meeting such good quality people all the time. So I don't have that, but I can see how men who aren't in this industry.
And it's both. It's one, there's a higher percentage of population of men that are feeling lonelier, particularly in middle age now. And that does not necessarily mean that they're alone. A big factor of feeling lonely is being around the wrong people. You're surrounded by lots of people, but you feel very alone because they're not the right kind of people necessarily for you. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but hey, if you're not drinking and you're focusing on fitness and you're hanging out a lot of drinkers who don't ever work out, kind of a tough spot to be.
So you just brought up alcohol. What's your take on alcohol? It's a very specific topic, but do you drink at all?
I do. So let's put it that. I don't say that I don't drink. I was a very good drinker for a very long time, which is to mean I was not a great human being drinking.
Right.
And if I recovered well, and if I was still able to handle it, I probably would be still drinking to an extent. But what I do say is that alcohol has naturally worked its way out of my life.
Right.
And the reason is I much prefer my mornings to evenings. I don't recover well.
So you used to not be a morning person. Now you are.
Correct.
I'm the same way. Exact same thing.
Correct. And I'm not even a super early person. You keep finding about me, there's always a little gray. There's always the middle. Yeah. I'm not I am not throwing it down in the gym at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. like you are. Yeah. I'm like an 8 or maybe 9. I wake up at 6.
Yeah. I was always very fortunate that alcohol was never a factor in my life. I actually just don't like alcohol. So I feel blessed that, you know, I see a lot of people who have a problem with it. And I think especially as you age, it just like I see it, it devastates, you know, people. But to the people that you coach, are a lot of these guys coming in? Because one thing I notice about like the successful guys you talk about, I notice when I have hung out with them, like these hedge fund guys and these VC and PE guys and all this, these guys are drinking. Like they're drinking. Like what do you say to your clients who come to you? Is like the first thing you do is like, hey, look, you have to stop drinking. Is that the first thing you do?
Look, I don't tell my clients what to do.
Do you advise them?
I share experiences.
Okay.
And we talk. And you got to put your big boy pants on and you got to make decisions, you know, that you feel are the right decisions. And this is a communicative process. This is a collaborative process. This is let's talk about this and let's think about, okay, how it is that you want to act, how it is that you want to behave, what, again, you want to put in your body, what do you want to put on your body, how do you perceive yourself, how do you want to be perceived by others? Okay, let's work on this now. You know, even I worked on this a lot too. When you go from drinking or being the guy that's always ordering a drink or having a drink in his hand to a guy that is choosing not to, you're on that path. Yeah. You also have to have, again, a process, a way of approaching these situations. What am I going to, socially, what am I going to order?
I never.
What
have a
is
problem
going to
with
be
it.
in my hand? Okay, which is very fortunate for you.
But you know what I say? I just say I don't drink.
That's a wonderful, confident statement. And you're secure with yourself and you're able to do it.
Yeah.
I would offer there are a lot of guys that struggle with that, myself included for a while, who are, you know, who have some challenges socially, who may be insecure, who may be used to developing more confidence by having a drink or two, by not having been the outlier in the room.
Oh, you're saying, sorry, I misunderstood. You're saying that they don't say they take the drink when they're out socially because they need that drink to feel better. I thought you meant that they take the drink because they don't want to seem antisocial with the people that they're meeting with.
Sometimes it's both.
Right.
What we're talking about here is we're talking about potentially changing a habit or behavior or swapping one out for another. And a lot of guys that come to me, they talk about consistency. It's like, they're like, oh, I'm not consistent with my health, or I'm not consistent with not drinking. It's like, you're consistent. You're just consistently making the wrong choice. You're just consistently drinking. You're just consistently not working out. Right. What we're talking about here is we want to shift the habit or behavior. We want to course correct because you have identified you want to make a change. You know, you may not be drinking to the extent that you have to go to rehab, but you know consciously you're not feeling as good as you want to. Maybe you're not recovering as well in the morning. You're feeling the social pressure to do it. It comes along with the job. It comes along with and you want to make a change. So how, again, are we going to do this? How are we going to change that behavior? You talked about progression. Are we going to go from, 5 drinks, a week to 0 right away? Probably not. Again, but back to the standards. What's in the operating system? How do we maintain that?
But I feel that as a society, I feel the messaging is becoming more pronounced of the stop drinking, like this dry January or whatever it is. Like I'm really noticing the shift in the way people look at alcohol.
Look, absolutely. I think it's great when you start to see the pendulum shifting more towards healthier behaviors. I think we're seeing this in a lot of areas in wellness. And particularly, I think we see it in midlife in particular. And we're seeing it with midlife men in particular. I'm seeing a lot of men who are very, very smart, very successful men who've made even their livings in less than healthy industries. Yeah. Whether it was, nightlife or entertainment or hospitality, or it could have been hedge funds. They get into midlife and things start to change. And now it's like they're using their superpowers for good. They're like, wait a minute, I have incredible experience and had success in hospitality and entertainment or nightlife. Or I can open a juice bar. I can open a gym. I can get in the IV business. I can get in the optimization business. And you're seeing guys, use their powers for good. And why? Because they are married and they have families and they are starting to see that life is finite and how might we think about extending it? And I don't mean that by optimization and I'm going to live to 120, but how do I make the most of these days and times? And I think that's awesome that they're putting their powers and resources and money and all of these things to good use to live a happier, healthier, better life. Now, if you want to have a drink, have a drink. If you recover well, fine. Absolutely. You're not going to find, I mean, look, the studies or the stats are what they are. And I'm not a science guy there too. I think it's about, again, what works for you. What is the best version of yourself, like you talked about, that you feel comfortable with?
I want to move on to the next topic. And the next topic, I want to talk about hobbies. So I shared with you before we got on camera that I'm getting my motorcycle license. I'm actually running from here to do my final exam. Hopefully I'll pass.
Amazing.
And everybody tells me I'm going to die and I'm going through this whole thing. But when it comes to men at middle age, you obviously remember the show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Absolutely.
And there was this one scene when I'm thinking about my motorcycle, I'm thinking of this one thing where what was the main character's name?
Uncle Phil?
Uncle Phil. When Uncle Phil, and he's like
2 for 2, Gary.
Yes.
Teddy Roosevelt and Uncle Phil.
You're doing great.
By the way, in terms of pop culture and history, that's a lot of space there too.
I'm very impressed. So Uncle Phil, I remember, pulled up once in his brand new Harley Davidson, and Vivian, his wife, Aunt Vivian, she saw him, and it was like this whole ongoing joke about this whole midlife crisis thing. And I feel like I'm going to go get this motorcycle, and me with my white beard, I'm going to pull up, and it's going to be literally that scene. I think I'm a little slimmer than Uncle Phil was at that time, although the actress passed away, and I hope God rest his soul. But it's that scene that plays in my head when I'm going to pull up in this motorcycle. So when a man is, and I'm kind of leading up to my question, whereas a man is in his 40s and 50s, and he's making these, like, he's taking on new hobbies. How can a man kind of do this without looking like a fool? Like, I feel I'm going to look like a fool pulling up in my motorcycle.
Well, one, I think the first thing is too many men give up their hobbies, or they wind up in midlife and they have given up a lot of things that they love. And their hobbies of whether they used to play guitar, or whether they, whatever, they might have been an artist, whatever it might have been, their hobbies go away because work and life and all these other things take over. And then the hobbies become the midlife ones, the things they're supposed to do. Now the hobbies, again, might be the cigar bar, might be the drinking, might be poker night, might be golf, things that take, 4 or 5 hours. So I think the first thing is, great, have great hobbies. If this makes you happy and it's fun and it brings you joy, then do it. Now, we could get into the argument of the danger of the hobby or whatever you're talking about, but let's put that one on the shelf, for a second, and just say, first of all, I'm a huge proponent of men having great hobbies and having fun hobbies. You want to cook? You want to paint? Like, take classes, go to these things. You want to ride a motorcycle? Ride a motorcycle. If that makes you feel good, here's the other thing that's cool. It's like learning too. You said we're curiosity or knowledge, junkies, or however you phrased it. Yeah. I got to take a course. I've got to learn about this. I've got to get a license. I'm going to figure out what kind of bike maybe I want to get. Do I want a big bike? Do I want a Sportster bike? Do I want this is a cool thing.
I have to say that I haven't been expanding my knowledge beyond what'll serve me in business and parenting. So those are the two things that I've been concentrated on. And this motorcycle thing is it doesn't move the needle on anything practical. To me, practical is money and my kids, right? And my relationship with my wife. So anything I do, any kind of hobby, any kind of education, any content I try to consume is to better myself in those areas. The motorcycle thing doesn't move the needle on any of those. However, what I can say is that doing it, like last weekend, I was doing my practical exam. Like I was on the course, 5-6 hours a day, running through all the things, and then did my test at the end. But I have to say, it really made me feel good to be doing something that really didn't move the needle on the practical knowledge that would help me in the things in my life that are important. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I would offer for consideration.
Yes.
It's very practical. Because it brings you joy, it makes you happy.
That's what I'm getting at.
And it rounds out these other areas which potentially you could over-index in. A lot of guys fall into this over-indexing trap. I'm going to where I'm only thinking about my family, I'm only thinking about my financing. Everything has to have a purpose, a process, and a payoff to it.
That's the thing,
and you know
right?
what? That's not true.
It shouldn't be true.
The truth is, go have some fun. What do you have all this stuff for? You're a good husband. You're a good father. You're in good shape. You've cleared your calendar because you're not giving away your time. Ride the motorcycle. That's incredibly practical. It puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And I think that gets lost. That's why fun is one of the F's. And we debated for a long period of time whether we were going to whether I was going to include fun even as one of the F's.
But it's important.
Because it could seem immature. Okay. It could seem juvenile. What are you talking about here when you say fun? And there's a lot of different kinds of fun. There were years of my life I was having all the wrong kinds of fun.
Right.
Now you start to think about what are good kinds of fun, or things that are bringing positivity, things that are bringing joy, things that are extending your runway, and your vitality. And you feel all of these things, you go back again to attraction. You go back to, perseverance. You go back to grit. You go back to how you feel, to how you look, your pride in yourself. Like fun is a huge, huge part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Greg, I have to say, this has been probably the best birthday present I could have given to myself by having you on. And I did it consciously because I knew that, today was my birthday. And when you and I booked this a few weeks ago, I said to myself, this is the best thing I can do, because I actually I said to myself, considering I'm 50 and every birthday, we reflect and as we're in this age, and I knew that this would it would make my day. It would make my day, it's good reflection. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming here, and I want to thank you for having this talk with me. I really enjoyed this. How do people find you?
First of all, thank you very much. You should aim higher next year, okay? Or we'll make this an annual thing. But I really appreciate it. It's been a joy being with you and seeing what you're doing. I think what you are doing is an inspiration to all guys out there, men, women, everybody. It's putting yourself out there to have these kinds of conversations and let people into your life and expand yours. So I'm greatly appreciative of it. I love doing these things and meeting men like yourself and getting this inside look into how you're doing things and how you're living as well. I'm not hard to find. Like you can find me on Instagram at Greg Scheinman. You could go to midlifemail.com, subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the podcast, and
where can they buy the book? On Amazon?
You can buy the book. Amazon's always the best place to buy the book. Mm-hmm. Please pick up a copy of the book. If you're like me, you can get the audiobook version of it too, and you can listen to it. And if you like it, leave a review, leave a comment, or reach out to me. I try to respond to everybody that I hear from.
Awesome. Well, next time you're in Miami, I apologize because I have to run to this motorcycle thing now, because it was the only time. If I don't do it today, I have to go do the courses again. But we had planned to do the sauna and the cold plunge. So I absolutely have a rain check. Next time you're in Miami, we'll do the whole session with the ice cubes and everything.
No doubt. We're going to do that. We're also going to probably do one virtual, because I don't know if you're anything like me. When I get in that cold, I need to do something to get that time to go faster. So I'll FaceTime or something.
Got it.
Okay, you're in yours, I'm in mine. Let's do this countdown.
I love it. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a pleasure.